The Lakers are my home, I'm very happy here and I plan to finish my career here, LeBron James was saying on ESPN's popular SportsCenter program. This city and this organization hold a special meaning for me. While Lakers fans and sports commentators were enthusiastically receiving James's words, the program producer rushed into the studio and handed a note to the host. The expression on the host's face suddenly changed. According to information we just received, he said with astonishment, TMZ Sports has obtained a recording of a secret meeting between LeBron James and his agent Rich Paul. In this recording, James can be clearly heard making plans to leave the Lakers. Welcome to the Famous Stories channel. Whatever city you're watching from, please write it in the comments below. If you're curious about unknown and never before heard truths, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos. It was a sunny Tuesday morning in Los Angeles. ESPN's SportsCenter program was broadcasting live as usual. The studio was illuminated with bright lights, cameras ready, host Scott Van Pelt presenting the program with a professional smile. Today's special guest was basketball world's living legend LeBron James. Today on our program we're hosting one of the greatest players in NBA history, Van Pelt began. Four-time NBA champion, four-time MVP, Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James. Welcome, LeBron. When LeBron entered the studio, he was wearing an elegant suit in Lakers purple and gold. He sat down with his usual confident demeanor and smiled at the host. "Thanks, Scott, it's good to be here," said LeBron. Van Pelt immediately got to the hottest topic on the agenda. "LeBron, there have been some rumors recently that you might be leaving the Lakers. ESPN sources indicate that you might be considering a change at the end of the season. What do you want to say about this?" LeBron responded confidently, as if he had been expecting this question. "Scott, these kinds of rumors always happen, especially for a player like me, who has played for different teams throughout his career. But I want to clearly state, the Lakers are my home. I'm very happy here and I plan to finish my career here. This city and this organization hold a special meaning for me." "So these rumors have no basis?" asked Van Pelt. "Absolutely none," said LeBron, looking directly into the camera. "I feel at home in Los Angeles. My family is happy here, my businesses are here, our school, I promise school, continues to grow here. I see no reason to go anywhere else." Van Pelt nodded in approval. "That's great news for Lakers fans. What do you think about the Lakers' current situation? The team has been struggling lately. You're not in a playoff position. Does this worry you? It's a long season and every team goes through difficult periods," LeBron said diplomatically. "We're going through a challenging time, but I believe we'll overcome this. When Anthony Davis returns, we'll find a better rhythm as a team. We have everything we need to make the playoffs and from there to reach the championship." As the conversation continued, there was some movement at the back of the studio. Program producer Alicia Martinez hurriedly entered the studio and handed a note to Van Pelt. As Van Pelt read the note, his expression suddenly changed. First surprise, then tension. "LeBron, before I ask you another question, I have a new development to share with our viewers," said Van Pelt, unable to hide the excitement in his voice. LeBron raised his eyebrows curiously. "What is it?" "According to information we just received," said Van Pelt with astonishment, "TMZ Sports has obtained a recording claimed to belong to you and your agent. In this recording, you can be clearly heard making plans to leave the Lakers." Everyone in the studio froze. The cameras immediately zoomed in on LeBron's face. The expression on James' face suddenly changed. His usual relaxed and controlled demeanor was momentarily disrupted by surprise, but he quickly recovered. This is absolutely nonsense," said LeBron, though his voice didn't sound as confident as before. "We're in constant communication with Rich Paul, but we're not making plans to leave the Lakers. This must be completely made up." Van Pelt wanted to elaborate further on the topic. TMZ announced they'll be publishing the recording within an hour. "Do you have any information about what's said in the recording?" LeBron thought for a few seconds as if trying to remember a conversation in his mind. "No, I don't think such a recording exists. My conversations with Rich are private and professional. If such a recording exists, it must have been taken out of context or edited." TMZ also claims that the recording was taken during a secret meeting at your home in Brentwood 3 days ago, added Van Pelt. This information seemed to catch LeBron's attention. His eyes widened for a moment, but he quickly composed himself. "Yes, I had a meeting with Rich at my home 3 days ago, but this was just a routine discussion. We talked about my contract for next season, ads that I need to approve, and some new business ventures. Leaving the Lakers was never on the agenda." Just then, program producer Alicia entered the studio again and handed a tablet to Van Pelt. After examining the tablet, Van Pelt stood up in shock. According to the information we just received, TMZ Sports has published part of the recording on their website. Can we listen to it? He asked LeBron. After a moment's hesitation, James reluctantly nodded. Sure, let's listen. But this must definitely be a misunderstanding. Van Pelt pressed the play button on the tablet screen, and everyone in the studio began listening attentively. LeBron's voice could be clearly heard on the recording. LeBron, Rich, we can't ignore this situation any longer. The Lakers are disappointing me. Management hasn't made the roster additions they promised me. Rich Paul, I understand, but isn't it too early to make a decision? The end of the season is approaching, maybe things will change in the playoffs. LeBron, no, I think enough time has passed to make a decision. I'm 39 years old now. I don't know how many seasons I have left. I want to win another championship ring, and to be honest, I don't think that's going to happen with the Lakers. Rich Paul, well, which teams are you considering? LeBron, Cleveland is always an option, that's my home, but the situation in New York looks interesting too. Brunson and the team are doing good work. Also Miami, my relationship with Pat Riley has improved. Maybe I could return there. Rich Paul, by the way, you know this conversation needs to stay confidential, right? You need to emphasize your loyalty to the Lakers on SportsCenter tomorrow. Our exit plans must remain completely secret, at least until the end of the season. LeBron, of course, I know how to talk to the media. Don't worry, the whole world will believe in my loyalty to the Lakers. The recording ended there. A deep silence prevailed in the studio. All cameras were trying to capture the expression on LeBron's face. His shock and concern were visible. LeBron, what would you like to say about this audio recording? Asked Van Pelt, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. LeBron remained silent for a moment, as if searching for the right answer among his thoughts. Then he took a deep breath. This recording might be real, but it's definitely been taken out of context, said LeBron, with obvious tension in his voice. Rich and I talk about everything, basketball, business and life. We evaluate different scenarios. That's normal. This doesn't mean I want to leave the Lakers, Van Pelt insisted, but at the end of the recording, you clearly say the whole world will believe in my loyalty to the Lakers. This raises doubts about the feelings you just shared with us, doesn't it? There was visible discomfort on LeBron's face. Look, we don't know the full context of this recording. It's part of a private conversation. As professional athletes, we always evaluate different scenarios. This doesn't mean I'm definitely leaving the Lakers. Just then, there was a new development in the studio. Producer Alicia entered the studio again, this time more hurriedly, and handed Van Pelt another note. After reading the note, Van Pelt's eyes widened. Ladies and gentlemen, there's another development, said Van Pelt. Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka wants to call into our program right now and says he wants to make a statement about this issue. The concern on LeBron's face became even more pronounced. This was a situation that was about to spiral out of control. A few seconds later, Rob Pelinka's voice echoed in the studio. Scott, thank you, said Pelinka. I want to make a statement about the recording that TMZ just published. The leaking of such private conversations to the public is extremely unfortunate and unprofessional. As the Lakers organization, we have complete trust in LeBron James and believe he is an inseparable part of our team. Van Pelt immediately asked, Rob, doesn't this recording concern you? LeBron is clearly talking about exit plans. Pelinka responded diplomatically. The NBA is a business and players always evaluate different options. This is normal for a big star like LeBron. As the Lakers, we are doing everything we can to provide him with a roster that can win a championship. LeBron has a contract with us and our commitment to him is complete. LeBron chimed in. Rob, thank you for your support. I'm proud to be part of the Lakers family. This recording is a small part of a private conversation and has been taken completely out of context. Just then, TMZ Sports' website appeared on one of the screens in the studio. The site announced that they had published the complete recording. Van Pelt immediately turned to LeBron to control the situation. LeBron, TMZ has published the complete recording. Would you like to listen to it? Ames knew he had to face the inevitable. Yes, let's listen. Van Pelt pressed the play button on the tablet, and a longer audio recording began to play in the studio. Rich Paul, LeBron, thank you for requesting this meeting. We need to talk about how the season is going. LeBron, Rich, we can't ignore this situation any longer. The Lakers are disappointing me. Management hasn't made the roster additions they promised me. Rich Paul, I understand, but isn't it too early to make a decision? The end of the season is approaching. Maybe things will change in the playoffs. LeBron, no, I think enough time has passed to make a decision. I'm 39 years old now. I don't know how many seasons I have left. I want to win another championship ring, and to be honest, I don't think that's going to happen with the Lakers. Rich Paul: well, which teams are you considering? LeBron: Cleveland is always an option, that's my home, but the situation in New York looks interesting too. Brunson and the team are doing good work. Also Miami, my relationship with Pat Riley has improved, maybe I could return there. Rich Paul: by the way, you know this conversation needs to stay confidential, right? You need to emphasize your loyalty to the Lakers on SportsCenter tomorrow. Our exit plans must remain completely secret, at least until the end of the season. LeBron: of course, I know how to talk to the media. Don't worry, the whole world will believe in my loyalty to the Lakers. Rich Paul: so if you decide to go to another team, how are you thinking of announcing it? Will you do a TV event similar to the decision? LeBron: no, those days are behind us. This time it will be more quiet and professional. Maybe an article in the Players Tribune or a simple press release. I don't want anything dramatic. Rich Paul: what about Bronny's situation? He's also entering the draft, and the Lakers might be thinking of selecting him. LeBron: yes, that's a complicated situation. I want to play with Bronny, but I also want to give him a chance to forge his own path. Maybe the team I go to could draft him too, or we could arrange a trade. Rich Paul: before talking to Lakers management, we should evaluate all options. Maybe they'll agree to strengthen the roster and you'll decide to stay. LeBron: maybe, but I'm not very optimistic right now. In my opinion, leaving seems like the best option, but of course we'll evaluate all possibilities. Rich Paul: understood. By the way, have you planned what you're going to say in tomorrow's interview? I'll deny the rumors and say I want to finish my career here. Classic media talk. Rich Paul: perfect. Now let's move on to non-basketball business. How's your new film project going? The recording ended there. A deep silence prevailed in the studio. LeBron put his hands to his face and took a deep breath. Van Pelt waited a few seconds before speaking. LeBron: this recording, what do you have to say about this? LeBron was experiencing perhaps one of the most difficult moments of his professional career. The cameras and everyone in the studio were waiting for his response. He finally spoke. First of all, the unauthorized recording and publication of this private conversation is unacceptable. I reserve my legal rights on this matter, said LeBron, with evident anger in his voice. Secondly, yes, Rich and I evaluated different scenarios. This is something a professional athlete and his agent should do. We have to put all options on the table. Van Pelt asked politely but insistently. But LeBron, at the beginning of the recording you clearly say you can no longer win a championship with the Lakers and that leaving is the best option. Then you told us something completely different. Isn't this a contradiction? LeBron took a deep breath. Scott, in this business world sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Yes, I'm considering the possibility of leaving, but this isn't a definite decision. My respect for the Lakers is endless and I've collected great memories with this team, but at this stage of my career, I need to evaluate all my options. Pelinka, still on the phone, had obvious disappointment in his voice. LeBron, this recording deeply saddened us. We've always trusted you and seen you as an important part of the Lakers family. We would have preferred you to share your concerns about roster additions directly with us. LeBron turned to Pelinka. Rob, I've always had open communication with you and the organization, but sometimes a player and his agent need to have private conversations about his future. This is a normal process. Just then there was another new development in the studio. Producer Alicia brought Van Pelt yet another note. After reading the note, Van Pelt couldn't hide his surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert also wants to call into our program, said Van Pelt. A few seconds later, Dan Gilbert's voice was heard in the studio. Hello, Scott. Thanks. We heard that LeBron mentioned the possibility of returning to Cleveland in the recording, and I wanted to make a statement about this. The tension in the studio was increasing. LeBron shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Gilbert continued. As the Cleveland Cavaliers, we've always seen LeBron James as part of our family. Thanks to him, our city experienced a championship, and we'll be forever grateful for that. If LeBron is thinking about coming back, we're always open to this conversation. Our door is always open to him. Van Pelt, realizing that the situation was increasingly getting out of control, decided to wrap up the program. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Do you have any other comments on this matter, LeBron? LeBron knew he needed to take control of this situation. Scott, first of all, I have serious concerns about how this private conversation was recorded and leaked to TMZ. This is a violation of privacy and I will be initiating legal proceedings. Secondly, yes, I'm evaluating different options, but I haven't made a definite decision yet. I'll continue to wear the Lakers jersey until the end of the season and do my best. The process going forward will be evaluated when the end of the season comes. Before ending the program, Van Pelt asked one final question. LeBron, if this recording hadn't come to light, when were you planning to announce your exit plans? LeBron thought for a moment. Scott, it would be wrong to talk about exit plans. These are just evaluations, possibilities, and like every professional athlete, I prefer to announce these kinds of decisions at the end of the season. Right now, my focus is on getting the Lakers to the playoffs and doing our best. Van Pelt nodded and began to end the program. LeBron James, Rob Pelinka, and Dan Gilbert, thank you for joining our program. We will continue to closely follow this development that has shaken the sports world. Before Van Pelt could finish his closing statement, producer Alicia rushed onto the set one more time, urgently whispering something into his ear. The host's eyes widened as he listened, then he turned back to the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm being told that we have yet another caller on the line who would like to join this conversation. Miami Heat president Pat Riley is now calling in. Van Pelt looked directly at LeBron, whose face showed a mix of disbelief and resignation. Mr. Riley, you're on the air with us. LeBron James, Rob Pelinka, and Dan Gilbert. Thank you, Scott, came Riley's distinctive voice, instantly recognizable to basketball fans. I wasn't planning to call in, but after hearing LeBron mention that our relationship had improved and Miami might be an option for him, I felt compelled to address this directly. LeBron closed his eyes briefly, as if wishing he could disappear from the studio entirely. Riley continued, his tone professional but with an unmistakable edge. I want to be clear that while our relationship has indeed improved since LeBron left Miami in 2014, there have been absolutely no discussions about him returning to the Heat. This is the first I'm hearing of such a possibility, and I find it inappropriate that this is being discussed publicly without any prior conversation with our organization. The tension in the studio was now unbearable. LeBron's carefully constructed narrative was collapsing in real time, on live national television. Mr. Riley, Van Pelt asked, are you saying that you would not be interested if LeBron were to express a desire to return to Miami? What I'm saying, Riley responded carefully, is that any such discussions would need to happen through proper channels, not through leaked private conversations. The Miami Heat organization has always operated with professionalism and discretion, and we expect the same from others. LeBron finally spoke up. Pat, I apologize if this has put you in an uncomfortable position. As I've been trying to explain, this was a private conversation exploring different hypothetical scenarios. Nothing more. I understand, LeBron, Riley replied, his voice softening slightly, but as someone who's been in this business for over 50 years, I've learned that there's rarely smoke without fire. Just as this new tension was building, producer Alicia appeared again, this time visibly agitated. She handed Van Pelt a phone rather than a note. After a brief conversation, Van Pelt's expression turned to one of complete shock. I've just been informed, he said, looking directly into the camera, that TMZ has now released what they claim is a video recording of the meeting between LeBron James and Rich Paul. Not just the audio we've heard so far. They're streaming it live on their website right now. The studio erupted in chaos. One of the production assistants quickly pulled up the TMZ website on the main studio monitor, and suddenly everyone could see it. LeBron James and Rich Paul sitting in what appeared to be LeBron's home office, having the exact conversation they had just heard on audio, but now with full video confirmation that it was indeed them, in LeBron's house discussing his exit from the Lakers while planning to publicly claim loyalty. LeBron's face drained of color as he watched himself on the screen. The video showed him leaning back in his chair, gesturing casually as he said, Cleveland is always an option, that's my home. But the situation in New York looks interesting too. Brunson and the team are doing good work. Also Miami. My relationship with Pat Riley has improved. Maybe I could return there. The camera then panned to show Rich Paul nodding in agreement before saying, by the way, you know this conversation needs to stay confidential, right? You need to emphasize your loyalty to the Lakers on SportsCenter tomorrow. Our exit plans must remain completely secret, at least until the end of the season. The video LeBron responded with a confident smile. Of course, I know how to talk to the media. Don't worry. The whole world will believe in my loyalty to the Lakers. Van Pelt muted the video and turned back to LeBron, whose composure had completely crumbled. LeBron, this appears to be incontrovertible evidence that you were planning to deliberately mislead Lakers fans and the organization about your intentions. Do you still maintain that this was just a discussion of hypothetical scenarios? LeBron sat in stunned silence for several seconds. The calculated, media-trained superstar who had navigated countless interviews throughout his career seemed to have vanished, replaced by a man caught in a moment of absolute truth. He began, then stopped. He looked down at his hands, then back up at the camera. Something changed in his expression. A resignation, perhaps, or a realization that the carefully constructed narrative was beyond salvaging. Look, I need to be honest here. Yes, I've been considering my options. The Lakers organization knows that I want to win, and I've been frustrated with some of the roster decisions. This rare moment of unscripted honesty from LeBron seemed to shift the energy in the studio. Van Pelt's tone softened slightly. So you were planning to announce your intentions to leave at the end of the season? Nothing was finalized, LeBron insisted. Rich and I were discussing possibilities, as we always do. But yes, I've been considering whether my championship window might close if I stay with the Lakers. That's the reality of being an athlete at this stage of my career. Rob Pelinka's voice came through the speaker again. LeBron, I think we need to have a private conversation about this. I'm going to hang up now, but I expect to hear from you immediately after this broadcast ends. Understood, Rob, LeBron said quietly. Dan Gilbert chimed in next. Scott, I think I'll step away from this conversation as well. This has clearly taken an unexpected turn, and I believe some private discussions need to happen before anything more is said publicly. Same here, added Pat Riley before disconnecting. With all three executives now off the line, it was just Van Pelt and LeBron in the spotlight. The host seemed to recognize the historic nature of what was unfolding, perhaps the most unguarded moment in the career of basketball's most media-savvy superstar. LeBron, Van Pelt said, his tone now less accusatory and more contemplative. Throughout your career, you've been known for controlling your own narrative. You've been strategic about your career moves, your public statements, everything. How does it feel to have that control taken away by this leaked recording? The question seemed to touch something genuine in LeBron. He sighed deeply and looked directly at Van Pelt. Honestly, it feels like violation. This was a private conversation in my own home, but beyond that, it feels exposing. Athletes at my level, we're trained to always say the right thing, to protect ourselves, our teams, our brands. He gestured toward the monitor still showing the paused video. This wasn't meant for the public. This was the behind-the-scenes reality that everyone in the league knows exists, but pretends doesn't.
What do you mean by that?
Van Pelt asked. I mean that every player in this league has these conversations. We all talk about our options, our frustrations, our plans. The difference is, those conversations aren't normally broadcast to millions of people. The fans hear what we say in press conferences and interviews, but they don't hear what we say behind closed doors with our agents, our families, our close circles. This unexpected candidness from LeBron had transformed the interview from a gotcha moment into something more profound, a rare glimpse behind the curtain of professional sports. So where do you go from here, LeBron? Van Pelt asked. The Lakers now know you've been considering leaving. The teams you mentioned, Cleveland, New York, Miami, have all heard you discuss them as potential destinations, and the fans have seen a side of you that, as you say, they're not usually privy to. LeBron thought for a moment before answering. I honestly don't know, Scott. This isn't something I ever anticipated having to navigate. I'll need to have some difficult conversations with the Lakers organization. I'll need to address this with my family, with my team, and I'll need to be more honest with the fans than perhaps I've been in the past. Just as LeBron was finishing his thought, the studio doors burst open with a bang. The entire room fell silent as Rich Paul himself strode purposefully onto the set, his face a mask of controlled fury. He was followed by a team of 3 men in suits who were clearly attorneys, based on the briefcases they carried and their grim expressions. Rich, LeBron said, standing up immediately, what are you doing here? Paul ignored the question and addressed Van Pelt directly. This interview is over, right now. Van Pelt, caught completely off guard by this latest dramatic development, struggled to maintain his composure. Mr. Paul, we're live on national television. I don't care if you're broadcasting to Mars. Paul interrupted sharply. You're airing illegally obtained footage that violates multiple state and federal privacy laws. Our legal team has already filed for an emergency injunction. One of the attorneys stepped forward, handing Van Pelt an official-looking document. This is a cease and desist order. ESPN needs to stop broadcasting the video immediately and remove all copies from your servers. The studio had descended into complete chaos. Production assistants were frantically communicating through their headsets. The director could be heard shouting instructions from the control room. Cameras were swinging wildly to capture every moment of this unprecedented situation. LeBron, seeing the confusion, stepped between Rich Paul and Van Pelt. Rich, I appreciate you coming, but I think it's better if we handle this my way. Paul shook his head firmly. Not this time, LeBron. This has crossed every line. It's not just about basketball anymore, it's about the principle. Someone broke into your home and recorded a private conversation. That's criminal. Van Pelt, trying to regain control of his broadcast, addressed the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, LeBron James's agent Rich Paul has just entered our studio with what appears to be a legal team. This situation continues to develop in real time. One of the attorneys leaned over and whispered something to Paul, who nodded grimly before turning back to the cameras. I want to make something very clear to everyone watching, Paul said, his voice measured but intense. The recording that TMZ obtained and that ESPN is now broadcasting was taken illegally through hidden cameras placed in LeBron James's private home without his knowledge or consent. This isn't just unethical journalism, it's a criminal invasion of privacy. The attorney who had handed Van Pelt the document stepped forward again. We've already identified the individual responsible, a security contractor who was hired to upgrade Mr. James's home system and who instead placed hidden cameras in his office. This person then sold the footage to TMZ for a substantial sum. This revelation sent another shockwave through the studio. LeBron, who had been maintaining remarkable composure throughout the ordeal, finally showed a flash of genuine anger. Someone I hired to protect my family's privacy did this, he asked, his voice low and dangerous. The attorney nodded. We have concrete evidence, and the individual in question is already being questioned by law enforcement. Van Pelt, recognizing the serious legal implications, turned to address his production team. We need to take the TMZ video off the screen immediately. The monitor showing the paused video went black. Rich Paul nodded in satisfaction before turning back to LeBron. We need to go. Now, he said firmly, there will be time for statements later, after we've dealt with the legal aspects of this situation. LeBron looked torn. He glanced at Van Pelt, then back at his agent and the attorneys. Finally, he nodded and began removing his microphone. Scott, I'm sorry, but I need to go with my team. This situation has clearly escalated beyond a simple interview. Van Pelt, professional to the end, nodded in understanding. Of course, LeBron. Thank you for your candor during what must be an incredibly difficult situation. As LeBron stood to leave, Van Pelt asked one final question. Before you go, is there anything else you want to say to the viewers, particularly Lakers fans who might be feeling confused or betrayed by what they've heard today? LeBron paused, considering his words carefully. Rich Paul started to intervene, but LeBron held up a hand to stop him. Yes, there is, he said, looking directly into the camera. To Lakers fans, I understand this has been shocking and disappointing to hear. The truth is, yes, I've been evaluating my options. That's part of being a professional athlete. But I want you to know that every time I put on that purple and gold jersey, I give everything I have. That has never been a lie. He took a deep breath before continuing. I don't know what the future holds. These conversations with Rich were private strategy sessions, not final decisions. But what I do know is that I love this game and I want to win. That's always been my North Star and it always will be. With that, LeBron James, Rich Paul and their legal team walked off the set, leaving Van Pelt alone at the desk with the cameras still rolling. The host, ever the professional, turned to camera one. We've just witnessed what is unquestionably one of the most extraordinary moments in sports television history, he said. LeBron James, confronted with a leaked private conversation, has just exited our studio with his agent and legal team. The implications of this unprecedented breach of privacy are only beginning to unfold. Van Pelt paused, gathering his thoughts. While we at ESPN take our journalistic responsibilities seriously, we also recognize the serious legal and ethical questions raised by this situation. We will be consulting with our legal team regarding the cease and desist order we've just received. He looked directly into the camera for his closing remarks. What began as a routine interview has evolved into something much more complex, raising profound questions about privacy, media ethics, and the relationship between professional athletes and the public. We'll continue to follow this developing story throughout the day on ESPN. For now, this is Scott Van Pelt signing off from what has certainly been the most remarkable broadcast of my career. The dramatic exit of LeBron James from the ESPN studio instantly became the biggest story in sports. Within minutes, clips of the interview were being shared across every social media platform. LeBron leaving, Lakers betrayal, and TMZ leak were trending worldwide. Sports networks scrambled to assemble panels of analysts to break down what had just happened. Meanwhile, in the back of a black SUV speeding away from the ESPN studios, LeBron James sat in stunned silence, processing the events of the past hour. Rich Paul was on the phone with the Lakers ownership group, attempting to minimize the damage. The attorneys were already discussing strategy for the inevitable legal battle with both TMZ and potentially ESPN. "How did this happen, Rich?" LeBron finally asked, his voice quiet but intense. "How did someone get cameras into my house?" Paul lowered his phone. "From what our security team has pieced together so far, it was the new system installer we hired last month. Guy named Marcus Thompson. Apparently he placed micro cameras in your office during the upgrade and set them to activate whenever you were in the room. And he sold the footage to TMZ for $250,000, according to our sources," Paul confirmed grimly. "LAPD has him in custody now. He's looking at multiple felony charges." LeBron shook his head in disbelief. "My own home, man. My own home." The car fell silent again. One of the attorneys leaned forward. "Mr. James, we need to discuss your immediate PR strategy. This situation is unprecedented, but we believe the best approach is to get ahead of it with a strong, unambiguous statement." "What kind of statement?" LeBron asked. "The whole world just heard me talking about leaving the Lakers while planning to tell them I'm staying. There's no spinning that." "Not spinning," the attorney corrected. "Contextualizing. You were having a private strategy session with your agent, exploring options that all professional athletes consider. The violation here was the illegal recording and broadcasting of a private conversation, not the content of that conversation." LeBron looked unconvinced. "Lakers fans aren't going to see it that way." "Perhaps not initially," the attorney conceded, "but this is about controlling the narrative moving forward. The question isn't whether you were considering other teams, that cat's out of the bag. The question is how you frame that consideration and what you do next." Rich Paul, who had finished his call, rejoined the conversation. "LeBron, I just spoke with Jeannie Buss. She wants to meet with you privately, as soon as possible. No other executives, no PR people, just you and her." "What did she say about the recording?" Paul hesitated. "She's disappointed, but she also said she's been around the NBA her entire life and understands that these conversations happen. She's more concerned about finding a path forward than dwelling on what was said." LeBron nodded slowly. "Set it up. Tonight if possible." As the SUV continued toward LeBron's home, the implications of what had happened were still unfolding across the basketball world. In Cleveland, Cavaliers executives were already meeting to discuss the possibility of bringing their prodigal son home for a third stint. In New York, the Knicks front office was calculating cap space and potential roster moves. In Miami, Pat Riley was fielding calls from his own executives despite his public dismissal of any interest in a LeBron reunion. In the immediate aftermath of the ESPN interview, the NBA landscape had been completely upended. Teams that had previously thought LeBron James was untouchable were now scrambling to position themselves as potential landing spots. Fans were divided, some understanding the reality of professional sports, others feeling personally betrayed by what they viewed as dishonesty from a player they had supported. But nowhere was the reaction more intense than in Los Angeles. Lakers fans who had embraced LeBron as the heir to Kobe Bryant's legacy were in various states of shock, anger, and confusion. Social media was flooded with videos of fans burning LeBron jerseys, while others defended his right to consider his options privately. Back at his Brentwood mansion, LeBron arrived to find a small group of reporters already camped outside his gates. Security kept them at bay as his SUV pulled into the driveway. Inside, his wife Savannah was waiting, her expression a mix of concern and controlled anger. "I saw the interview," she said as soon as he walked through the door. "How are you holding up?" LeBron loosened his tie and collapsed onto the sofa. "I don't even know, honestly. In 20 years of professional basketball, I've never experienced anything like this." "The kids are upstairs," Savannah said. Bronny saw it too. "He's worried about how this affects his draft prospects." LeBron closed his eyes. In all the chaos, he hadn't even considered how this might impact his son's NBA future. Bronny James was projected as a late first-round pick in the upcoming draft, with the Lakers widely expected to select him to fulfill LeBron's often-stated wish to play alongside his son. "But now, I need to talk to him," LeBron said, standing up. "First you need to know something else," Savannah said, her voice tight. "The security company found 3 more cameras in the house, one in the kitchen, one in the living room, and one in our bedroom." LeBron froze. "Our bedroom? They were all activated by motion detection. They've been removed now, but they don't know how long they've been there or what else might have been recorded." The violation LeBron had felt in the ESPN studio suddenly magnified tenfold. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. This was about his family's safety and privacy. "I want a complete security overhaul," he said, his voice hard with anger. "New system, new company, new everything. and I want Marcus Thompson prosecuted to the fullest extent possible, already in the works," Savannah assured him. "Rich has a team coming tonight to sweep the entire property." LeBron's phone buzzed with a text from Rich Paul. "Meeting with Jeannie Buss set for 8 p.m. at her house. Private. No media." He showed the message to Savannah. "I need to figure out what I'm going to say to her. Just be honest," Savannah advised. "That recording already showed your true feelings. There's no point trying to cover them up now." LeBron nodded slowly. "I know. But there's a difference between considering options and making decisions. I haven't decided anything yet." "Haven't you?" Savannah asked gently. "Because it sounded pretty decided to me in that recording." Before LeBron could respond, his phone exploded with notifications. Glancing down, he saw the source. TMZ had just released more footage. "What now?" he muttered, opening the link. This time, the video showed him and Rich Paul continuing their conversation, moving beyond what had been played on ESPN. "Rich Paul, so you're sure about this? You're ready to leave the Lakers behind?" "LeBron, I've given it a lot of thought. I've got maybe 2 good years left, and I need to make them count. I appreciate everything the Lakers have done, but it's time for a change." "Rich Paul, Cleveland would welcome you back with open arms. You could finish where you started." "LeBron, it's poetic, I know, but I'm not sure it's the right basketball decision. New York is building something special and they're just one piece away." "Rich Paul, the piece being you." "LeBron, exactly. Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball. Ending my career by bringing a championship to the Knicks would be one hell of a final chapter." The video ended there, but the damage was already done. This wasn't just LeBron considering options anymore. This was him all but confirming his intention to leave, with the Knicks apparently in pole position. "Damn it," LeBron muttered, dropping his phone onto the coffee table. "This just keeps getting worse." "You should call Jeannie and reschedule," Savannah suggested. "You need time to process all this." LeBron shook his head. "No, pushing it back won't change anything. Better to face it head on." Upstairs, he found Bronny sitting on his bed, scrolling through social media with a troubled expression. "Pretty crazy day, huh?" LeBron said, sitting down beside his son. "That's one way to put it," Bronny replied without looking up. "Twitter is going insane. Half the comments are about how this affects my draft stock." "I'm sorry you got caught up in this," LeBron said. "None of this should affect your future. You've earned your spot in the draft on your own merits." Bronny finally looked at his father. "Dad, be real. We both know half the interest in drafting me is because of you. Teams were looking at me as a package deal. If you're leaving the Lakers, where does that leave me?" It was a fair question, and one LeBron didn't have a good answer for. The plan had always been simple. The Lakers would draft Bronny, and father and son would play together for a season or two before LeBron retired. Now that plan, like so many others, was in jeopardy. "We'll figure it out," LeBron promised. "This doesn't change the fact that you're NBA talent. With or without me, you belong in the league." Bronny didn't look convinced, but he nodded anyway. "So what happens now?" "Now I go meet with Jeannie Buss and try to explain myself," LeBron said. "After that, I don't know. We're in uncharted territory." At 7:45 p.m., LeBron's security team escorted him to Jeannie Buss's Bel Air mansion. The Lakers owner had specifically requested that he come alone, without agents or attorneys. It was a testament to their relationship that despite everything that had happened, LeBron agreed. Jeannie greeted him at the door herself, her expression unreadable. She led him to her living room, where a bottle of wine was already open on the coffee table. "I thought we might need this," she said, pouring 2 glasses. "It's been quite a day." LeBron accepted the glass but didn't drink. "Jeannie, I want to start by saying I'm sorry, not for having that conversation with Rich. That's part of the business, but for how you found out about it." Jeannie took a small sip of wine before responding. "You know, my father always told me that in basketball, business is business. Players come and go, teams rise and fall. The only constant is change." "That's true," LeBron acknowledged. "But he also taught me the value of loyalty and honesty," she continued, her voice hardening slightly. "When you came to the Lakers, you talked about the legacy of this franchise, about your respect for the Lakers brand, about finishing your career here. Was that all just, what did you call it, classic media talk?" The direct quote from the recording stung. LeBron put down his untouched wine glass. "When I came to LA 6 years ago, I meant every word I said," he replied. "I wanted to restore the Lakers to championship glory, and we did that. I wanted to continue the legacy of Lakers greats, and I believe I've done that too. But things change, Jeannie. Teams evolve, priorities shift." "And what's changed?" Jeannie asked. "We've done everything you've asked. We've traded picks for veterans. We've taken on massive contracts. We've consulted you on every major roster decision. Not every decision, LeBron countered. The Russell Westbrook trade was a disaster. The failure to land Kyrie Irving when he was available. The decision not to pursue DeJounte Murray at the trade deadline. These were missed opportunities. Opportunities that would have mortgaged our future for short-term gains. Jeannie replied evenly. You're thinking about your window. I have to think about the Lakers' window, which extends long after you're gone. It was a fair point, and one that highlighted the fundamental tension that had been building between them. LeBron's urgency to win now versus the organization's need to balance present and future. So where does this leave us? LeBron asked after a moment of silence. Jeannie met his gaze directly. That depends on you. The new footage TMZ released makes it pretty clear you've made up your mind about leaving. Is that true? Have you decided? LeBron hesitated. The easy answer would be to deny it, to say he was still weighing his options. But after everything that had happened, more misdirection seemed pointless. I was leaning that way, he admitted. The conversation with Rich was about exploring the best path forward. The Knicks have a young core, cap space, and a need for veteran leadership. It seemed like a good fit. And Cleveland, Miami. Were they serious options too, or just leverage? Cleveland will always have a special place in my heart, LeBron said. But basketball-wise, they're not ready to contend. As for Miami, that was more hypothetical than serious. Jeannie nodded, processing this information. And what if I told you we're not ready to let you go? That we're prepared to make significant moves this offseason to address your concerns? What kind of moves? LeBron asked, his interest peaked despite himself. For starters, we've been in preliminary talks with Atlanta about Trae Young. We have a potential 3-team deal on the table that would bring him to LA without sacrificing Anthony Davis. This was news to LeBron. Trae Young was exactly the kind of dynamic scoring point guard the Lakers had been missing. We're also prepared to use our first-round pick to draft Bronny, Jeannie continued. Regardless of where you decide to play next season, we want him as part of the Lakers organization. He's earned that opportunity on his own merits. The gesture caught LeBron by surprise. It was both a professional courtesy and a personal one, acknowledging Bronny's talent while removing him as a bargaining chip in LeBron's decision. I appreciate that, LeBron said sincerely. Bronny was worried about how all this would affect his draft prospects. He shouldn't be, Jeannie assured him. Our scouts are high on his potential, completely separate from his connection to you. They fell into silence again, the weight of the decision hanging between them. I can't promise you I'll stay, LeBron finally said. After today, I need to step back and reevaluate everything. But I can promise you this, whatever decision I make, I'll communicate it directly and honestly. No more classic media talk. Jeannie smiled slightly at that. That's all I can ask for. She raised her glass. To transparency. LeBron picked up his glass and clinked it against hers. To transparency. As he left Jeannie's house an hour later, LeBron felt a strange sense of relief. The leaked recording had been a violation, a betrayal of his privacy in the most intrusive way possible. But it had also forced a level of honesty that might have been impossible otherwise. His phone buzzed with a text from Rich Paul. Knicks owner called. Wants to meet tomorrow. And just like that, the carousel started spinning again. The NBA's most coveted free agent, suddenly and unexpectedly on the market months before anyone had anticipated. The next morning, LeBron woke up to find Knicks-bound trending on Twitter. Fans had analyzed every frame of the leaked videos, every word of the ESPN interview, and had collectively decided that New York was his destination. But as he scrolled through his phone, a new headline caught his attention. Lakers finalizing deal for Trae Young in blockbuster 3-team trade. The report, from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, detailed exactly what Jeannie had outlined the night before, a complex deal involving the Lakers, Hawks, and Bulls that would bring Young to Los Angeles while sending Russell Westbrook and a package of picks to Chicago, with Atlanta receiving Zach LaVine and additional draft compensation. If completed, the trade would give the Lakers a formidable big three of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Trae Young, potentially the most offensively dynamic trio in the NBA. His phone rang. It was Rich Paul. You see the Woj report? Paul asked without preamble. Just reading it now, LeBron confirmed. They're not messing around, Paul said. Jeannie's putting her money where her mouth is. The deal isn't final yet, but it's close. They're waiting on Chicago to give the final green light. LeBron considered this development. What does this do to our leverage with other teams? It changes the calculation, Paul admitted. The Knicks can't match a Davis-Young pairing, not with their current roster. Cleveland might be able to put together something comparable, but they'd have to gut their team to do it. And what about the TMZ situation? Any updates? The legal team is making progress. They've secured a temporary restraining order preventing TMZ from releasing any more footage. Marcus Thompson is facing multiple felony charges, and we're preparing a massive civil suit against both him and TMZ. LeBron processed this information. Good. I want them to pay for this. They will, Paul assured him. But we need to focus on the basketball decision now. The Knicks owner is still expecting to meet with you today. Do you want me to cancel? LeBron thought for a moment. No, I'll keep the meeting. I owe it to myself to hear what they have to say. But let's push it to late afternoon. I want to see how this Lakers-Hawks-Bulls trade develops. Smart, Paul agreed. I'll make the arrangements. By noon, the trade was official. The Lakers had acquired Trae Young, transforming their roster overnight. Sports talk shows were abuzz with speculation about what this meant for LeBron's future. Some saw it as a desperate attempt to keep him in Los Angeles, others as a shrewd basketball move regardless of his decision. LeBron watched the coverage with interest, noting how the narrative had shifted. Yesterday, the story had been all about his apparent deception and planned exit. Today, it was about whether the Lakers' bold move would be enough to change his mind. His phone buzzed with a text from Anthony Davis, Trae Young. Before he could respond, another text came in, this one from Trae Young himself. Looking forward to sharing the court with you, King. Let's get that chip. The assumption in both messages was clear, that the trade had been made with LeBron's blessing and that he would be staying in Los Angeles. The reality was more complicated. Yes, Jeannie had mentioned the possibility of acquiring Young, but LeBron hadn't endorsed it or committed to anything. Now, though, the situation had evolved. The Lakers had significantly improved their roster, addressing one of his primary concerns. The question was whether it was enough to outweigh the other factors: his desire for a new challenge, the allure of bringing a championship to the Knicks, the poetic appeal of finishing his career in Cleveland. At 4 p.m., LeBron arrived at the Beverly Hills Hotel for his meeting with Knicks owner James Dolan. Unlike his meeting with Jeannie, this one included a full contingent of executives: Dolan, the Knicks president, their general manager, and their head coach. LeBron, thank you for taking the time to meet with us, especially under these unusual circumstances. Dolan began once they were seated in a private suite. Unusual is one way to put it, LeBron replied with a slight smile. We won't waste your time with pleasantries, Dolan continued. You know why we're here. We want you to be a New York Knick, and we're prepared to offer you the most competitive package possible to make that happen. The Knicks president stepped in, outlining their vision. LeBron is the final piece of a team on the cusp of championship contention, playing in the world's most famous arena, in the media capital of the world. They talked about marketing opportunities, legacy considerations, and the basketball fit with their current roster. It was a compelling presentation, hitting all the right notes. Under normal circumstances, LeBron might have been swayed, but these weren't normal circumstances. You've clearly put a lot of thought into this, LeBron acknowledged when they had finished, and I appreciate the interest. But I have to be honest with you, I'm not in a position to make any commitments right now. Dolan's expression tightened slightly. Is this about the Lakers trading for Trae Young? Because we have moves we can make too. We've been in discussions with Minnesota about Karl Anthony Towns. We could build a super team in New York that would rival any in the league. It's not just about roster construction, LeBron explained. It's about taking a step back and making sure my next decision is the right one. After what happened yesterday, I need to be thoughtful about this. We understand, the Knicks general manager said smoothly, but time is a factor here. The draft is approaching. Free agency opens soon after. We need to know if you're seriously considering New York so we can plan accordingly. LeBron understood their position, but he wasn't going to be rushed. I appreciate the urgency, but I can't give you a timeline right now. What I can say is that New York is definitely on my radar. The opportunity to bring a championship to the Knicks is appealing, but I have other factors to consider too. The meeting concluded with handshakes and assurances of continued dialogue, but LeBron could sense the Knicks' disappointment. They had hoped for more, perhaps even a verbal commitment. Instead, they got polite interest and non-committal responses. As his driver took him home, LeBron reflected on the stark contrast between his meetings with the Lakers and Knicks. With Jeannie, there had been a raw honesty, a recognition of both the challenges and opportunities ahead. With the Knicks, everything had felt more transactional, more calculated. His phone buzzed with a notification. Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert had scheduled a press conference for tomorrow morning. The subject wasn't specified, but the timing was suspicious. Before he could ponder this development, another call came in. This one from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. LeBron, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time, Silver began, his tone formal but friendly. Not at all, Commissioner. What can I do for you? I wanted to check in personally after yesterday's events. The situation with the leaked recording is unprecedented, and I wanted to assure you that the league takes this violation of your privacy very seriously. I appreciate that, LeBron said. It's been challenging. I can only imagine, Silver sympathized. Beyond the personal aspect, though, I'm also concerned about the broader implications for the league. The public nature of your potential free agency, months before you're officially a free agent, creates complications. What kind of complications? LeBron asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. For starters, there are tampering concerns, Silver explained. Teams aren't supposed to be engaging with you about future employment while you're under contract with the Lakers. The fact that you're meeting with the Knicks today, yes, I know about that, technically constitutes tampering. That's on them, not me, LeBron pointed out. I didn't initiate the contact. True, but you participated, Silver countered. Look, I'm not calling to reprimand you. I understand these are exceptional circumstances, but I am asking you to be mindful of the league's rules and processes, even as you navigate this difficult situation. Understood, LeBron said. Was there anything else? Silver hesitated before continuing. There is one more thing. The Board of Governors is meeting tomorrow to discuss the potential expansion of the league. 2 new franchises, likely in Las Vegas and Seattle. LeBron's interest was immediately piqued. He had publicly expressed his desire to own an NBA team after retirement, specifically mentioning Las Vegas as a market he was interested in. The reason I'm telling you this, Silver continued, is that there may be ownership opportunities associated with these expansion teams. Nothing immediate. The process would take several years, but your name has come up in preliminary discussions. The implication was clear. If LeBron was thinking about his post-playing career and long-term legacy, this was a factor worth considering. That's interesting, LeBron said carefully. Thank you for letting me know. Of course, and LeBron, whatever you decide about next season, I hope you'll make the decision based on what's best for you and your family, not based on the extraordinary circumstances of how this situation became public. After ending the call, LeBron sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything that had happened over the past 36 hours. What had begun as a routine ESPN interview had spiraled into the most complex decision of his professional career, played out in the glaring spotlight of public scrutiny. The Lakers had made a bold move to address his concerns, trading for Trae Young to create a potentially dominant Big Three. The Knicks had pitched him on the allure of Madison Square Garden and the legacy of bringing a championship to basketball's most storied arena. Cleveland lurked in the background, his original team, the place where his journey began. And now the commissioner himself had hinted at potential ownership opportunities down the line. Each option had its appeal. Each represented a different vision of how the final chapters of his career might unfold. As his car pulled into his driveway, LeBron made a decision, not about which team he would play for, that would come later, but about how he would approach this unprecedented situation. The next morning, LeBron James called a press conference of his own. No team affiliations, no agents or executives by his side. Just him, facing the media directly, on his own terms. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, he began once the cameras were rolling. 2 days ago, a private conversation between me and my agent was illegally recorded and made public. That recording revealed discussions about my future that were never meant for public consumption. He paused, making eye contact with several reporters before continuing. I could stand here and tell you that the recording was taken out of context, or that it didn't represent my true feelings, but I won't do that. The truth is, I have been considering my options for next season and beyond. As a professional athlete nearing the end of my career, that's not just my right, it's my responsibility to myself and my family. The room was completely silent, every reporter hanging on his words. What I will say is this. No decisions have been made. Contrary to what you may have heard in that recording, I have not committed to leaving the Lakers, joining the Knicks, returning to Cleveland, or any other specific course of action. Those were private strategy discussions, exploring different scenarios and possibilities. He took a deep breath before continuing. Moving forward, I will be taking some time away from the public eye to consider my options carefully. I will not be commenting on free agency or my future plans until after the season has officially concluded. I ask for privacy and patience during this process, not just for myself but for my family, who have also been affected by this invasion of our home. LeBron's voice grew more passionate as he reached the conclusion of his statement. One last thing, to Lakers fans who may feel betrayed or disappointed by what they heard in that recording, I want you to know this. Every time I step on that court wearing purple and gold, I give everything I have. That has never changed and never will, regardless of what the future holds. Thank you. With that, he stepped away from the microphone, ignoring the barrage of questions that erupted from the assembled media. He had said what he needed to say. The rest would come in due time, on his terms, not dictated by leaked recordings or media speculation. As he left the press conference, LeBron felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The path forward was still uncertain, the decision still complex. But for the first time since that fateful ESPN interview, he felt in control of his own narrative again. The basketball world would just have to wait to see what the king decided next. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. What do you think about this topic? Please write in the comments below. See you in the next video.